All right, looking forward to this week. Really first road game, which is going to be fun. Texas is a good football team. You look at. I've obviously known a lot about Mac and Coach Brown and their coaches. Known a lot of them, competed against a lot of them, and it's one of the premier programs in the United States. They couple a lot of things. Their tradition is fantastic. Their facilities are fantastic. Their support is fantastic. It's going to be a tremendous environment. So they have everything going for them. They got great coaches. When they went out a year ago and hired Brian Harsin and Manny Diaz, I knew that they were going to turn the corner and play well. They made a change with their strength situation as well and put Benny Wiley in charge of it. I was with Benny at Texas Tech for a long time, so that's changed the mentality that's existed around there as well. So tremendous program. Coach Brown's one of the most respected guys in our profession, and his reputation precedes itself, and his winning record is something that is pretty impressive. Good on all three sides of the ball. Offensively, they're still young. They got 9 returning starters, but they're still young. That's amazing to me. We have 9 returning starters, but 8 of them are seniors. Or, potentially 9 of them are seniors. They got 9 returning starters, and they still got a bunch of sophomores on their team. So they're going to continue to get good. They're going to continue to get better. They do a great job of taking care of the ball. They do a great job of staying ahead of the chains. I think they're in the top 5 when it comes to third down production. So they got weapons on the outside, and they got big backs in the backfield that are very athletic. Defensively, they're tremendous against the pass, which obviously we're going to throw the ball around a little bit. They got great pass rushers. They got tremendous speed in the secondary. They just do a great job of covering the pass, and they're a little nicked up at linebacker. I expect we're always going to expect them to get their guys back and play at a very high level, and we will have our hands full with them defensively. Special teams is something that they've always been great at. They've probably blocked as many kicks as anybody in the country over the last 13 years. Their kicking game's always been solid. They got weapons back there. They're in the top 15 when it comes to returns, both punt return and kick return. So on all three sides of the ball, it's going to be a chore. And you couple that with being on the road for the first time this year and playing in somebody else's stadium, we obviously got our work cut out for us. Take some questions.
Said yesterday on the call you were happy with the defensive line, you're happy with the linebackers, obviously the secondary. What have you seen on tape? I mean, you didn't really get into that yesterday. And are you guys looking to make any changes or do anything differently this week because of it?
Well, we always look to make changes if we need to, both from a schematic standpoint and a personnel standpoint. We couldn't. I mean, college football is what it is. We can't call somebody and ask for a trade or pick somebody up off of waivers or any of that. I mean, those guys are guys that have played around here for a long time, and we got to get them better. Or we got to get young guys, which we have, 10 freshmen on defense, which is young, that those guys got to continue to improve. And it's our job as coaches to get them more confident. It's our job as coaches to get the young guys more experience through practice to the point when we put them in the game, we can trust them a little bit more. But the front 7 played well. And it was just the starters. When we started, when we, after the course of 92 plays, you got to play other people, and we did. And that's where you see a drop off. Which that's the same. I mean, if there wasn't a drop off, then those guys would be starters and not backups. So the young guys are backups, and they gotta continue to get better. Which that's just coaching and experience. And then but the front 7 guys, when you look at Will and George and Shaq and Doug Rigg and Isaiah and Terrence and Josh, those guys played really well against the run. 2 yards a carry, that's pretty good for a team that averaged over 250 yards a game in rushing. That's really good. What was disruptive at times when they were rushing the passer. I know Josh is disruptive, Terrence is disruptive. Doug got in there a little bit and was disruptive. Need a little bit more out of the D line when it comes to pressuring the quarterback. But you got him in a bunch of third downs and just gave up too many big plays.
Is there a different way of judging defensive success in games like that?
Not that one.
You mentioned confidence. For the guys who maybe didn't perform as well as they or you would have liked, I guess, is there a question of confidence? Is there something you can do to kind of get them back on the right track? Is that something you can work on in practice? Or is it something you have to put them out there in another game situation and have them succeed to feel better about it?
Well, yeah, I mean, there's different ways of developing confidence. One is being successful. And some of the guys that we had back there had been successful in the past. Some of those guys were true freshmen that haven't experienced it yet. So that's step number one. You know, the other way is probably to man up a little bit and say enough's enough, and get out there and work hard. And one of the things we've told every one of our players is nobody's going to give you anything now. I mean, you got to go out there and earn everything you got. So if you don't like if you don't like what the result was, then you got to work hard in order to change it. That's just reality, and that's not reality in football. That's reality in life. Last time I checked. So, you got to have some success, and you got to get experienced. Which young guys, you got to be experienced. Got to get experienced. They got to face that type of stuff in order to truly understand it. And then, at some point, you just got to man up and get the job done.
And you moved Cody Clay to a different position, and it just seems like he's each week getting better and better and played pretty good. Would you discuss that a little bit?
Yeah, played well. I'm really proud of that kid. I mean, that kid, we didn't know what he was going to do when we recruited him, whether it was tight end or center or heck, I didn't know. But the kid's playing well. I mean, he loves his role, whether it's tight end, whether it's special teams, whether it's being in the backfield leading on backers or coming backside chopping down defensive ends. He's doing a great job. And Ryan and Donovan were out with injuries, and he stepped up and played, I think, 45 snaps on offense at a pretty high level. So, and had a lot to do with Spring and Bowie for a couple of those runs that we got out. So, very consistent guy, hard worker. Understands his role, loves his role, and does everything he's got to do to get better at it.
And he was able to stay in and be like an inside receiver too, because he knows that that's not just a look, I'm guessing. That's because he can do that. Yeah,
being able to get into different sets with the same personnel drives defense as a coordinator is crazy. So, and we're not going to put guys that can't do that. For the first year, I mean, I said we didn't know what to do with him. I mean, he was tight end. We never moved him to center, but he was tight end. We had him at inside receiver. I mean, he can run and catch. He's not real fluid at it, but can get the job done. And blocking on the perimeter is something that he does a great job of.
You did a couple of, I would say, new things or things we hadn't seen offensively. I don't think you do that very much because I'm not going to go with a promise, but you don't tend to do that very much.
I think that's the first time we've done. What did we do? I don't remember doing anything different.
Really? I don't know if you're jiggling or not. Well, like the true 5 wide receiver stuff, whatever. It seemed like it was unusual. Guys talked about that in the game that was in last week, right?
Yeah, that's the first time we've done that.
How unusual is that?
Right. Huh?
How unusual is that?
To do something new, to do something new to where you can see it's probably one thing. That's one that we just didn't have any running backs, right? I mean, they're all beat up, and I told you guys that I'm not going to use that as an excuse. I mean, that's if we don't have any running backs, then we'll make it work with receivers. If we don't have any receivers, then we'll make it work with running backs. It's our job as coaches to make sure that happens. And we were down at running back, and we liked it, and moved some people around and got good at it. It made sense. We did it.
Coach, I was driving over here yesterday, and I heard 4 straight radio networks talking about your quarterback in the Heisman Trophy. Do you discuss that with him to help him keep that in perspective?
A little bit. I mean, it's all about handling expectations, whether you're talking about a specific trophy or whether you're talking about a big game on national TV of a big top 10 matchup or whatever it is. What we're talking about is handling expectations. It's the same thing that we talked about when he was picked as the Big 12 preseason Offensive Player of the Year. Those are just expectations. When you come off of a 40-point win in a BCS game, there was high expectations. So do we talk about handling expectations? We do all the time, and Gino does a good job of that. He understands that the way to handle it is get back to work. Get in here at 2:30 today and be ready to meet your next task. because there's always the next task.
Where do you think David Ash has shown the most improvement?
Handling the ball is one thing. Taking care of the ball is one thing. You know, he's gotten a lot better. Brian Harson's a good quarterback coach. He did a great job at Boise State. They had a quarterback there that I think won a few games. Kellen Moore was pretty good. He developed him and has a system that he believes in, and it's the same system that they ran up at Boise, and he's doing a great job with it. They're getting better. It's scary to see 9 returning starters, and I think 7 of them are sophomores, which is crazy. So he's doing a good job with the whole offense, and David's one aspect of that has a tremendous amount of ability. I watched him play in high school a bunch, and has a tremendous amount of ability. He's got a lot of talent around him, and it's a group that continues to get better.
Dana, their 2 edge rushers defensively look very good, very highly acclaimed. What do you see off of them on film?
You know, they're about that tall. Their shoulders are about that wide, and they're about that long. Pretty good. Jackson's, I worked with Jackson's dad at Houston, and Jim Jeffcoat, who was the Hall of Famer, looks just like his dad, you know, and he was always around the office. Great kid, but just talented. Yeah, they're long and they're talented, and they love to rush the passer, and I would assume they're extremely fired up about being able to do their job this week, and our tackles are extremely fired up about blocking them.
Oklahoma State kept your offense after you left. They obviously, Texas just got to look at it. Do you feel like that's any benefit for them having kind of 2 weeks of seeing at least something similar?
Depends on how you look at it. We got a whole game of watching how they defend it. So it depends on how you want to look at it.
And is their stadium unique at all? You mentioned Tradition Stadium in your opening comments, but
well, it's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. They've done a lot of work to it. It's over 100,000. It's big. It's manicured. There'll be a lot of people. Be a lot of cheerleaders. Be a Longhorn in the end zone.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
You mentioned Joey Matson had a good game. Explain what that means with a center, and also how it differs maybe from a tackle having a good game or a guard doing it. Yeah, it's different responsibilities, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's one thing that is overlooked when it comes to Gino's play. I mean, who's snapped Gino the ball since Gino's been here? It's been Joey, you know, and Braun's been right there. There's a level of comfort that exists knowing that Joey's there from not only a snapping standpoint. I mean, that's trust, you know, to have that quarterback center exchange is something that's often overlooked. It's much like a deep snapping problem that you have. Well, all of a sudden it's a problem when you recognize it. Cody Nutter was great last year. Nobody ever talked about him, you know, and he's a guy that's missed. You know, and I took some criticism from some people as far as the player of the week. Well, those plays never get started if you don't have a center that does everything right and makes all the right calls and blocks people and all that. So, you know, you could probably delete a few of those touchdowns or a few of the rushing yards or whatever if the center's not doing his job. And it's not just the center; the O-line in general played really well. Joey graded out the best out of all of them, so he's the one that got it. And I'll be quick to point out if they go south on me. You know.
If I remember, you said you guys had some work to do in the run game after Baylor. What'd you like that you guys were doing, and was that any part of that a product of limited personnel?
Work to do after the Maryland game or after the Baylor?
After
game?
Baylor.
Did I say that?
I thought so.
Yeah, I don't know. I thought we did well running the ball. You know, we I don't remember what the exact yardage was or any of that, but it was. I don't necessarily look at the yardage. It's the threat of being there. If you hand it off and Bowie creases it for 12, you know, then they got to do something about it. So it's the thought of being able to do it. I think everybody's happy with the 51 passes that we threw and how that turned out. But without that threat of handing it to them and getting some yards right there, people do different things defensively. And I've always ran the offense to the point where we're going to do everything we can to develop that threat to be there, to be able to do that. Now, the better your personnel is there and the better things are blocked up and the more yards you get, probably the more you'll see it.
You guys like to do a lot of stuff in the perimeter. You guys mentioned, I think there are 2 cornerbacks and there are 2 defensive ends. How much do you think that whoever wins that battle on the outside is maybe significant toward the outcome?
Yeah, it's going to be extremely significant. Those are 4 of their better players. They got 2 safeties that are pretty good too, that have a lot of experience. I think they got 7 returning starters. One of them was out. I don't know if he'll be back. But looking at last week's tape, those 6 are pretty important to them. But you still got 5 more guys out there that you gotta account for, obviously. So the corners are good. They're fast. They can get in your face. Vicario, number 4, is a 3rd corner. I mean, what they do with him is what LSU did with that kid last year. They put him down in the slot and be disruptive. So he does a good job of covering as well. It's going to be challenging for our receivers because they're going to have people in their grill for the first time all year, and much like LSU did last year. So I think each one of those guys will take that opportunity to get a little bit better at what they do and look forward to the challenge.
Dana, speaking of LSU, you had a game similar to this last year in that the atmosphere, a defense that is probably more talented and physical and athletic than any other that you're going to face. Do you take anything away from that? Because in that game, you actually made their defense look kind of silly, but still lost.
4 turnovers. That's what we learned in that one. I mean, we're capable of running routes and pass protecting and all that against. We proved that we can do that against anybody. You got to block up front. You got to win one-on-one matchups on the outside, which we did a lot of that. But we turned the ball over 4 times. I mean, did we lose? Oh, you're darn right we did. We didn't stop their run, and we turned it over 4 times. So, yeah, and hopefully it's not the same outcome. We're not playing LSU though, but I understand the question. And the 2 things we got to do better is stop their run and not turn the ball over.
I know you're a big guy in body language, and obviously, the defensive guys Saturday were down with their performance, and that's understandable. How closely will you be watching those guys for their body language today, tomorrow, to make sure that their heads are over that?
Yeah, I mean, we do the same thing every Sunday. We come in here and we talk about the game and point out what was right, what was wrong, watch the film, and then it's over. It's over and it's done with. And then it's about making sure that we improve. So I would expect a whole bunch of really good body language coming in here at 2:30 today. If not, it'll get quickly pointed out, as it does after wins, and positive performances or losses and not positive performances.
Going back to the turnover thing, Mac Brown said last week on the teleconference that they're 75-0 when they win the turnover battle. Do they do anything schematic-wise? They're over-aggressive, trying to force turnovers, or their defensive guys just have a high energy, stripping the ball, trying to make a play?
I imagine we're 75-0 too, and we win the turnover battle. I don't have that exact stat, but I would assume that's the one stat that exists in college football that is very apparent. And the top 10 teams at the end of the year, when it comes to BCS rankings after the bowl games, every one of them is going to be in the plus when it comes to turnover margin. So it's something that everybody talks about, and they're pretty good at it, so I assume that they have ways of coaching it. We're pretty good at it. We're a top 10 team when it comes to turnover margin, and we have ways of addressing it, and we have ways of practicing it. And if our way is better than their way, then I hope it turns out to where we win the turnover battle.
Yeah, Saturday afternoon, you said that you sometimes worry about Gino being too critical, too hard on himself. It sounds like you're beyond confident in him being able to handle all these things. But is it he works too hard? He's too hard on himself. He expects too much. What specifically about his demeanor?
He doesn't ever do anything. He's not changing. Nothing's different. I don't see anything different with him this year than I do last year, other than just the confidence a little higher. he handles this stuff pretty well. You ask him to do things, he does it. You ask him to come in and put in some extra time and watch tape, and he does it. You ask him to go home and critique what he's doing or the opponent or whatever it is, he does it. And then he comes up and sits right here and he's bright-eyed at 2:30 and he's ready to get out there and practice, and his practice is always the same. I don't, if it was affecting him, then it would probably affect his practice, which would probably affect his performance, which I don't see. I don't see. So I see a confident kid that works hard and prepares hard and is ready to go on Saturday. And I've seen the same thing for 4 weeks now. So we'll monitor that very closely this week to make sure that he's not getting all goofy. If he starts getting goofy, we'll tone him down.
Any update on Sean Alston you can share?
Yeah, we'll see how he does today. Okay. All right. Thanks, guys.